All right, bows and bow ties. So look, I've got bus duty this morning, so that's why I am here 6 o'clock in my kitchen. Oh, so you know how you have one of those little floor cleaners? I don't have the Roomba. I have I think it's the Shark. I had the poor people's version. Anyway, I heard it kick on somewhere, but it couldn't because it's probably stuck behind something and I didn't charge it. So whatever little bit of charge is left on it, it's probably like, please, please charge me. So look, I just want to get into, you know what? Hold on a second. I'm going to bring up what we're going to talk about real quick because I just had a couple things on my mind. Okay. So, you guys saw the thumbnail. I'm going to flash it on my screen in a second. There it is. Bam. You got Oprah, Coach Prime, and then a woman who got hit by a brick. So, I think what I want to do, I want to just circle back to the uh, Coach Prime thing for a second. I'm going to do this all out of order. I want to talk about Coach Prime for a second because I have been enjoying it, ever since, he left Jackson State and, everyone was calling him all kinds of names. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Wait a second. So now that he's at Colorado and he's doing his thing, and I am enjoying watching him enjoy his success, right? And I know so many people want to see him fall, but this is the thing. I mean, he walked his walk and talked his talk, and he was bold about it. And I don't think people liked it. And what's interesting is because I think he is so hated right now and probably feared. I feel like they're going to like drum up some like fake news on him. I'm telling you, like they're going to drum up some nonsense because they do not want to see this man perform the way he's performing. And it was just the one game. He's got Nebraska coming up now. Granted, I'm not a Colorado fan or anything, but I am a fan of watching him ever since he was at Jackson State. So, and for those of you who don't believe me, you can probably find some post I've made, probably on TikTok, I think. I don't know which platform, but um, I'm actually just rooting for him to do well because then those young men that he's coaching and the staff gets opportunities. Those young men do well. They bring in more money for the school, which gives opportunities to other students. It raises their profile. I think those young men, if their name, image, and likeness isn't like popping and locking right now, it's most definitely going to be popping and locking more. I think it's also going to give those individuals who aren't in the high profile positions more opportunities and visibility. So, with that being said, I just wanted to say congratulations to Coach Prime. I can't wait to hear more people find ways to tear down his team. But I am definitely enjoying watching everyone eat their crow. All right. So, and I may circle back to Coach Prime before I get off. I may not. Anyway, let's move on real quick before I get on Oprah one more time. I want to talk about the Black woman who, let me bring up this little thing again. This is my thumbnail. The Black woman, for those of you who may or may not be living under a rock, okay, there was a woman who was hit in the face with a brick. Okay, now you're probably wondering, boy, the Black opinionated woman is definitely reporting on a lot more, I guess, current events or whatever. Well, I've had time recently because my children's schedules have been quite light. So I've had time to read and do other things. But I'm just going to show the woman, but I don't want to show these other men. I don't like to show anyone, I don't want to give them any kind of clout. Like, there are men. So, okay, the premise of the story is there was a woman, I believe she was outside of a nightclub or something like that. And apparently there was a man who allegedly was trying to holler. She said no, didn't want to give her number, and he beat her up upside the head with a brick. I saw some of the rumors that it may have been a skit. Some people said, well, she was running her mouth and degrading him or whatever. Let me just make this clear. Skit or not, whether she was running her mouth or not, in what world do you take a brick? Like, I don't even have any intelligent words. Like, I don't have any words. And what makes it so sad was to watch these full-on clowns try every which way to justify. They say things like, well, they say they don't need a man, or they're equal or whatever. I'm like, this is what we're breeding in the community. This is the reason why I tell people, like, I don't deal with whacked out weirdos. I'm like, if we got to the point where men were protective and did what they needed to do, I think you would see less women making those kinds of statements and saying, because I think what men are not getting is when women say, I don't need a man, I think they're misunderstanding that they don't need this dysfunctional type of man. They don't need someone who is not going to be a contributor or provider or any of those things, right? Because they are already taking care of their basic needs on their own. Anyway, so we've got such a hatred of women from men that they think it's okay to put their hands on people, to apply anything as a weapon to a woman, and particularly Black women. There's so much hate in this community. I am like, I'm just so turned off. I don't even want to be around people at this point. And what makes it so bad was there were men who were, I felt like they were almost celebrating it. This woman had to go to the hospital. These men felt no remorse. They're like, I won't take the risk. I'm like, are you serious right now? Because what if that had been my mother or my sisters or my daughter or my nieces? I do not understand how you can be completely unaffected by it. I want to show you this video of this woman. No, this isn't it. Hold on, hold on. Okay, hold on. Let me bring this up. I'm trying to get myself together. Look at this. Okay, what am I doing? I'm on a struggle bus right now. I'm sharing my screen because I'm a disaster.
Done to anybody in my life to deserve this. I never did anything in my life to hurt anybody. Literally, a man asked me for my number. I said no, and he picked up a brick in front of so many men and was like, "What you gonna do?" And I told all these men, like, "Yo, why this man got a brick on my face?" And he's holding a brick, and all these niggas is watching, and nobody does nothing.
I try not to drop N-bombs on my channel or anything like that. But okay, so you saw basically what the gist is, and I don't want to play all of it all the way through. I mean, I guess I could, but this is what we're dealing with. There were a bunch of men who watched it. So then you wonder why women don't have any faith in the men, right? And they say things like, the men are like, oh, the women are like, they don't like Black men. I'm like, this is what we're seeing. This is what we're seeing. It has nothing to do with your baby mom. I hate when people call it that, like the mother of your child. So this has nothing to do with white men taking Black men out of the home. This has nothing to do with anything. This man, if you can call him a man, this coward of his own volition chose to inflict violence on a woman. It is disgusting. I think about how the how do I say this? Black men don't even love themselves. How can we possibly expect them to love us, right? Um, I am like losing hope with a lot of these guys. Like I'm trying to raise my boys to be men. My husband is a man. He doesn't act like that. Um, Black men don't love themselves. They don't. So how can we expect them to love women? It is evident because there's no remorse. Look at how they treat themselves. Look at how they choose to kill themselves. I'm not saying unalive. They take each other out. They kill themselves. And they blame everyone but themselves. So how can we possibly expect for them to care and love for Black women? They can't because they don't even know how to govern themselves. They can't. And it's a shame. And don't get in my comments saying not all. I'm like, if it doesn't apply, the fact of the matter is that man was a coward and he was an animal. It doesn't make any sense why someone would want to take a brick to someone's head and then get in the car or whatever. And there were people who watched. My understanding is no one even called like a medic, the EMS, the ambulance, anything. So the way I see it is we black women in particular have to stop expecting black men to care for them and protect them because they don't even care and protect themselves. You can't love somebody more than you love yourself. And it is evident what we see time and time again. And then they get on these platforms, they get on these stupid podcasts and they make these stupid posts like it's not worth the risk. They sat around and watched. What cowards? How can we possibly start supporting these men when they're not providing safety? Like I always say, women want all forms of security: physical security, mental security, financial security, emotional security, sexual security, spiritual security. And for these men to think that it's okay for a man to behave cowardly and of his own volition took a brick and hit her. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of excuses for why it was okay. Like I said, I saw online there were some people who said it was a skit. I find it hard to believe that's a skit, like to volunteer to get your head bashed in. Number two, some people were saying, oh, well, she was running her mouth. I'm like, so he has to take a brick to her head or to her face? This is what we're doing? So, my word to Black women is this: you stop expecting Black men to care for you and to love you and to protect you right now because they are broken. And I'm saying what I'm saying because look at how they don't even care for themselves. So, they can't possibly care for you. And I try to remain hopeful, but it becomes really difficult in times like this when there were men who watched this happen, didn't even call the ambulance. And then there are men who posted after she was showing her trauma. She's like, I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to go on vacation. I'm scared to go on vacation. All these other things. This is clearly traumatic. And there are men who were online saying, like, oh, you guys want to be equal. I'm like, this is the sickness. And they're like, it's not worth the risk for me jumping in. I mean, they couldn't even bother to call the ambulance. It's not worth the risk. Oh, you said you wanted to be equal. Here it is. I'm like, that's equality? Getting your head bashed in? Let me tell you, I used to go so hard for Black men, but right now I'm like, I don't know what you guys want from me. I'm doing the best I can to raise my boys, to support my husband and any other man that's in my family. But this shenanigans out here, I know someone told me one time a long time ago, like, I said I didn't want to go into the city. They were like, why? Are you scared of your people? I'm like, yeah. Am I scared of Black people? No. But what I'm saying is, in that environment, I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. I remember one time I was at in the gas station. I was playing tennis. This was just like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, back when I was a lot thinner than what I am now. And a buddy of mine, this was down in DC, which isn't nearly as treacherous, from my opinion, as Baltimore. And I remember I was getting some gas. He's like, I'm gonna follow you to go get gas. I'm like, really? Is it that bad? He was like, now you know you were supposed to get gas before you came down here. He followed me to the gas station. Now keep in mind, I get out of the car. I don't really have a whole lot of clothes. I have on a cute little tennis outfit back in my fitter finer younger days. This is just like a handful of years ago. And I wasn't thinking about it. I was wearing my ring, so it's shiny. And he gets out of the car. He's like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm pumping gas. He's like, I'll pump your gas. He's pumping my gas and he's looking at the guy. Um, you know how you like when you're getting gas and it's like On the other side, you can get like the little gas thing. There's you can get gas. And so on the other side of the gas thing, so while he's pumping my gas, he's mean mugging the dude. Like this ain't what you want. And I'm like, what is happening right now? And I was sitting in the car, not thinking about it. I was leaning on the door, and I was like this, not thinking. My ring is popping and locking, and he's like, "Take that off." Or put your hand down. He's like, you're such a target. And I wasn't even thinking, right? And there were people coming out of the little like store area and trying to get a skip on. And so I think he was acting like he was packing. I don't know what was going on, but he started acting real strange. And I'm like, what is happening right now? He was like, basically, like, dodo bird, like, what are you doing? And the point I'm getting at is my when I got home and I told my husband about it, he was like, whoa. First of all, I hate when you're going down there to play, but you need to have a full tank or gas in your car. Like, what are you stopping to get gas for? And the point I'm getting at is, so when people say, are you scared of your people at this point? I'm like, yes, they mean harm. They mean harm. I can't trust them. Are there good people in the city? I'm sure there are. But what I don't want to do is sift through all the marbles to find three good ones when all the surrounding marbles might be just not so good. That's probably not the best analogy to make. Anyway, getting back to what this guy did, to this woman. Let me see. I can play the rest of this for a little bit. Hold on a second, because she's clearly traumatized by it.
And he hits me in my face, and then they're all just watching. And they let that nigga get in the car. How is this okay? This is what y'all doing to women?
I don't even want to play anymore. I've seen enough of this because I was just kind of like, this is too much. Anyway, so those are my thoughts. There's a black woman who got hit in the head with a brick, and you've got men out there co-signing it because they're psycho. There'll be a couple of like psycho ones in my comments. I expect them because that's just how terrible these people are. But now, does this mean that I think black men are horrible people? No. But what I am saying is so many of them don't even love themselves. So how can we possibly expect for them to love this woman when they will take themselves out? All right, I'm going to move off of that. I just want to bring this up real
Governor
quick.
Josh Green said this right after the fires in Maui.
Okay, so I brought this up and he went right into it, but this is more on the Oprah debacle. Oprah is a whole hot mess. Her and Dwayne Johnson, they both, I think, contributed. Dwayne Johnson is known as The Rock. Let me throw up this real quick. This was the thumbnail I used the other day. Oprah and The Rock getting up there, and they're like, hey, all the poor people, look, The Rock and I has set up this fund so all the poor people can donate to the poor people of Maui, the ones who are affected. I just couldn't believe it. Let me just say, I'm like, you are a multi-billionaire. He is worth millions. You guys know plenty of people. He allowed himself to be pimped out, okay, by Oprah because it was Oprah, right? So The Rock, aka Dwayne Johnson, or I should have said Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, allowed himself to be pimped out by Oprah because he's Samoan or part Samoan, to ask a whole bunch of people who are struggling on a daily basis for money for Maui. And it's a total deflection. And you can go, I think I'm linking to this video, the one I did this weekend. But basically, it's a deflection because she already is deflected from the fact that, like, while these people want their land back and these people are without a home right now, she's buying a property just like all the rest of these rich people. The elites are sick. These are some sick people. Go watch my video. But anyway, let's see what was said on this one.
Thinking about ways for the state to acquire that land so that we can put it into workforce housing, to put it back into families, or to make it open spaces in perpetuity as a memorial.
Everyone thought that sounded weird. But then last week, Justin Huey, a Lahaina resident, went to the Maui County Council.
Did you catch what was said? I'm going to play this again. I want you to listen again. Catch what this guy said.
Remember when Governor Josh Green said this right after the fires in Maui?
thinking about ways for the state to acquire that land so that we can put it into.
Now, listen, what he just said was they were looking for ways for the state to acquire the land. Apparently, this was said 3 weeks prior to all the fires. Now, I'm not typically a conspiracy theorist, but remember how I was like really just like on 10 about Oprah and all these rich people buying up all this land in Maui and stuff like that. So now check this out. Keep listening.
Workforce housing to put it back into families or to make it open spaces in perpetuity as a memorial.
Everyone thought that sounded weird. But then last week, Justin Huey, a Lahaina resident, went to the Maui County Council meeting to testify and said this.
My name's Justin Huey. I am a teacher, a third grade teacher from the burned down King Kamehameha III Elementary in Lahaina. And I am testifying on my concerns of the governor's emergency proclamation that happened 3 weeks prior to the fire.
Now, he's like, yo, the governor gave out an emergency proclamation to evacuate. This is 3 weeks prior to the fires. Okay. See this? If you're paying attention now, go catch the replay. I'm telling you.
And how it suspended 7 state statutes, of which exonerated everything that you guys are in charge of, covers county organization, administration. And to my knowledge, this was the first emergency proclamation in the country that didn't have a preceding incident. Normally it's like a hurricane.
Okay, now doesn't that sound crazy? Normally something happens or there's impending doom. Like they set this 3 weeks in advance. Like, there's an emergency proclamation. I need you to roll up out this camp. Why? Why would I do that? Because it's an emergency. I'm telling you. Listen.
Hurricane, boom, we got an emergency proclamation. But this was just, from my knowledge, was just to streamline development.
It's true. Governor Josh Green signed an emergency proclamation specific to housing 3 weeks before the fires in Maui on July 17th. This proclamation basically says that housing in the state of Hawaii is an emergency because the land and the development has become too expensive for Hawaiians to rent and buy. It removes all the red tape when it comes to building new infrastructure and suspends previous building laws saying that those processes take too much time.
So there's people who want to come in and build, but it's expensive and there's a whole bunch that goes into it. I just saw something on TikTok the other day. Now, this might be a little bit of a conspiracy, but it does align. They basically said, I'm not saying TikTok is news, but sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire. And I do mean the pun intended. They were just talking about how it very well could be that with all these elite people who live in Maui, right? Like none of their properties were damaged. That's my understanding. Hold on, let me put my little banner up. Allegedly. None of the elites, their stuff was damaged. And the idea is that if we can reduce the price of the surrounding other land around us, then they could possibly go in and purchase up more of the land at a much reduced price. So a lot of this does kind of sort of align with, hey, the governor or whoever was, there's an emergency. I need you to evacuate before anything happened. So of course people are like, what are you talking about?
Suspended 7 state statutes, suspends historic preservation, Hawaii Community Development and Authority, environmental impact statements, collective bargaining in public employment, allowed the governor to appoint a state lead housing officer to support and carry out the intent and purposes of this proclamation, not an elected official. It states what is needed to promote the expedient development of housing. Number 4, brownfield sites that are developed.
So look, people want to develop. But Hawaii is outrageous. I remember when I didn't know this. So I want, for those of you who are from Hawaii, and I know I don't say it correctly, so please forgive me. We went to Hawaii a couple years ago, a couple summers ago with the kids. And I learned that the property, I knew it was expensive there, but they were like, it's just so expensive there that people like the locals can't purchase the property, right? And so you're really fortunate if you have a piece of land or property from like a family member that keeps getting passed down. But like so many people, I guess, are like family members, like they're trying to hold on to these properties. I had no idea what was going on. And I was just kind of like, oh, I'm like, if you're part of the union, the United States, I'm like, well, then maybe. And I hate when like the government gets involved in everything, but that's when you should step in and say, okay, look, we've taken from these people in their ancestral land, and now it's hard for them to own their own land. Oh my goodness.
Primarily to provide housing. What are brownfield sites? According to the EPA, a brownfield site means real property, the expansion, redevelopment, or reuse, which may be complicated by the presence of hazardous substance, pollutant, or contaminant. Isn't that why the government's saying that they're having to build these fences around Lahaina to keep the pollutants out? Also, a super weird coincidence is that the EPA's Brownfields 2023 premiere event happened in Michigan on the exact dates of the fires in Maui, August 8th through the 11th. To me, all of this is odd. The timing of the emergency proclamation for housing, specifically 3 weeks prior to the fires in Maui. Governor Josh Green, right after the fires, saying that he was trying to find ways for the state to acquire the land. And the fact that the Maui residents have been voicing their concerns about land grabs and saying that the government is not including them in the rebuilding process.
So I just want to say, I didn't even know all of this, right? And just the other day, I was just kind of like, didn't Oprah just buy like another 800 and something acres like within the last year or so? You've got all of these rich elite people moving out or purchasing land in Maui or wherever. And I was like, what is happening right now? I'm like, what about the people the people who were there? Look, and I know a lot of like Hawaiians or Samoans and you know don't necessarily care for black people. I get it. Like, and I'm not, I'm not trying to necessarily fight on their behalf, but right is right. I'm like, who I was like, the United States is sick. And look, and I love my country, don't get me wrong, because this is the only country I know, right? It's not like I can go anywhere else. But this is
for Lahaina. As always, let me know what you think about all of this down below.
all right. So and enough about that. So anyway, where I was going with that was, I don't know if Oprah is just in with a whole bunch of really wealthy people to get in on this land grab. I'm not saying she is. What I am saying is this mighty and fishy. Okay. Now I had just done a video on this. I didn't even know all this stuff that this woman was pulling up and documentation and stuff like that, right? I haven't done any research. That's why I have my little ticker up there that says that everything is alleged. But what I am seeing is I was like, wait a minute, you're buying up a whole bunch of land. And I'm like, the people in Hawaii are feeling some kind of way about all of these people coming through here. The government's trying to get land and all these high-powered millionaires and billionaires trying to get stuff. I'm just happy for my little situation outside here. Anyway, Oprah knows she's out of control. She's sitting there talking about how she wants the money in her fund to get into the hands of the people. And let me just say to people, Look, when people create these nonprofits, I want to make it clear a portion of that is tax free. And I don't know what portion of that is tax free. I don't want to speak to that because I'm not an accountant, but they make money off of that kind of stuff. That's why she kept saying we want to put the infrastructure in place, the infrastructure, the infrastructure. The infrastructure is making sure the right people who want to get paid, allegedly. Look, Oprah and The Rock and Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and Warren Buffett. Not that I mean, I don't know if they all. I mean, I think Zuckerberg definitely, Facebook guy or Meta book or whatever they call themselves. I know he. I think he has land there, but I'm sure all the billionaires and millionaires do. The point I'm making is they have so much money several times over where they can help reconstitute for the people who lost their homes. They need to get their homes. I know I can't do anything, right? Like I'm counting up my pennies, making sure that I can send my kid off to school, and I've got three more behind him. So I just want to be clear. Oprah is full of crap. She's using The Rock because he's Samoan or half Samoan or whatever. So she's trying to, I guess, lend credibility by proximity. She keeps bringing up Dolly Parton's name because we know Dolly Parton likes to give away a lot of money. And I'm just kind of like, she's trying to find her way to gain curry favor through everyone by like schmoozing or attaching her names to these celebrities. I'm like, Oprah, look, you are already looked at as sus anyway because of your relationship with um Harvey Weinstein, and stuff like that. All I know is this: Oprah needs to stop. I still was turned off. I should pull up that clip of her saying, yeah, we don't want to have all of these television crews in here filming this devastation. And then the very thing that she does is make sure that they film her passing out some pillows. If she's going to give, she could have just given. Like she was passing out like if she was like a demigod or something. Like, I don't know. Like I think she has a demigod, like a god complex anyway. I think she does. That's why she went from being so-called Christian to New Age and all the weird stuff she's doing. You can't. That's why she finds all these whack jobs. Was it the John of God or whatever? All these weirdos, and she like props up all these people, and then they all wind up being like wackadoodles. You got her school that was in Africa, allegedly. I think they had a whole bunch of molestation and like sexual assault things happening there. And then all of a sudden that got quiet. I'm like, oh, we're like, everything you do is sus lately. And now I don't want anyone to think that I'm knocking the good that she's done too. Like she's given a lot and helped people, but I'm just calling the thing a thing. All right. So I told my kids that I would make them breakfast sandwiches this morning so they can have a really good breakfast on the way to school. And I need to make my lunch. So you guys have a good one. It is 6:33. As you can see, the background is starting to get a little lighter. I hear some stirring upstairs. They have to be at the bus in about an hour and 20 minutes, actually less than that. So let me make sure that they are doing what they need to do. Leave a comment below. Let me know your thoughts. Make sure you subscribe. Watch all of my videos. Every single one of them is amazing. 100%. Bye.